Recent changes at the federal level have trickled down to Siouxland, impacting people using Catholic Charities services. 3 years ago, Catholic Charities started its Welcome program. It's a partnership with an immigration attorney in the Sioux City Diocese who fully funds the program, providing legal consultation and resources to the people who can't afford them. The recent changes have impacted individuals who have work visas and temporary protected status visas. Amy Block, the executive director, reiterated they're looking for alternative legal means to keep their clients here and wants the community to know that everyone has rights.
It's important that people know what their rights are, and for people to hopefully remember and have empathy that these are human beings that we're talking about, regardless of anything else, and to have some empathy and kindness towards everybody here.
Block said Siouxland has a diverse community, and she hopes that continues.